West Tigers Faithful episode 36. We've probably had it for the last couple of weeks, but we actually have more podcast episodes than West Tigers do full-time contracted players. Joe McCord, what's going on?
Yeah, not much, mate. I was just thinking probably also wins in the last 7 seasons.
Yeah, well, it's been an ugly ride, and it's been compounded by a frustrating loss, one that has clearly frustrated the coaching staff. But we've got a massive episode to get through. Bit of an interesting one. We won't really have a game to preview, so anybody that's got any questions, hit us straight away. Let us know, and even give us some ideas for next week. I'm not too sure what we'll do. There was an idea for us to potentially play directors of football for the Perth Bears. Spoiler alert, I won't be signing up in Coruscant, but we'll have a think of what we can do. But
I have a thought on that one. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have a thought on who my first signing would be for Perth Bears, and it's going to surprise you.
Well, I look forward to hearing it.
I think we should do an under-19s Origin preview next week.
That'd be good fun. There's some absolute weapon players that I really like in there, and some guys that I wouldn't mind the Tigers having a look at. Ryan says that I've got a fresh cut. Yeah, you're right, mate. Unfortunately, he went a little bit too short, but it's a rugby league haircut nonetheless. I'll take it.
You look like a Slavic hitman.
Yeah, especially with the jacket too. I think that it's really giving.
It's giving Cyberpunk 2077 energy.
Yeah.
Another shout out to the game that I've been playing religiously over the past month.
Yes, of which you have certainly been plugging. One thing to plug from our end, I feel like I haven't done this in weeks, and it's fucking podcasting 101. Subscribe on Apple, YouTube, Spotify. Give us a rating if you can per episode, and for the podcast itself. Hit the bell if you want to get notified early. Obviously, as
definitely hit the bell.
We do this on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. You want to be here if there's stuff you want to know, or you think we might have an opinion on that you want to hear about, please come join in. And send us your questions via the chat box. We are on Instagram. X is where we do a lot of our ranting, and we try and put a whole lot of shit on rival club fans, and so and we got Facebook and TikTok as well. So if you are on those, get around us. You can.
We got stuck into some people in the last week on X. That's for sure. It's probably been the most agitated we've been on that platform, and we did some agitating as well. So it was definitely a good time. Hey, look, please, if you're watching chat, we're very interactive with the chat. We like it when our viewers comment, not only because it gives us stuff to talk about, but it also pushes us up the feed in YouTube. So get active in the comments. Have some Barneys if you see some other teams' fans in there. Get around it. Get active.
And most importantly, the reason we do this is because of you blokes and ladies. So
we don't actually have any paid sponsors, despite what it may seem like.
No.
We just like what we like, and that sometimes includes the West Tigers.
Indeed. Well, I'm going to segue off the back of that. One thing I did like was a signing announcement that came on Friday. I was told that it was coming Thursday, but it turned out that his team was playing on Thursday, so they pushed the announcement back 12 hours. Kai Pearce-Paul will be a West Tiger in 2026. There's been chat about this for months on end, but he has officially signed a 3-year deal. The Daily Telegraph reported that it's around $1.5 million over the 3 years, so around $500K a year. To give you an idea, that's a $250,000 pay cut compared to what he's on at Newcastle currently. Obviously, I think he has lost a bit of value there, but you look at what he did on Thursday night for that team, he was a big part of their resurgence and obviously influential on the result. He's a big body, very athletic, can offload. I think there's so much upside, and I think that he is a wonderful, wonderful addition. We have spoken for so long about back row targets, and quite frankly, I thought he was unattainable for a long time. People that have been watching us for many moons will know that when we did our free agency special, he didn't rate a mention simply because we didn't think that we'd be able to afford support him. Nonetheless, he's a Tiger now, and he will be until the end of 2028 and hopefully longer. Mac, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good point. When we did our free agency special, we were operating with a very skint budget, expecting that we would be spending a lot of money on Lachlan Galvin over the next few years, and therefore we were shopping in the budget store for players. I think that I'm excited. I'm with you. I think that he is the best back rower that was on the market coming into this season. That's not to say he's a world beater. It's not to say he's like really proven much, but he is definitely the best back rower that was available. So, being a club that has issues in the back row, especially in terms of the right back row position, I think going out and getting the best back rower on the market at a decent $500,000 a year is great work. I think that you have to be pumped about it. And it was pretty timely, too, for Kai Pearce-Paul to come out and actually have a good game. His first half was quiet in that game on Thursday night, but in the second half, he had some really good moments. He showed that he has, skills that Alex Seyfarth does not have. You would never see Alex Seyfarth run that line and make that massive galloping line break. I've obviously seen him in open space a few times, but he kind of needs clear air to get space. He needs the perfect ball, and then on top of that, obviously Kai Pearce-Paul is a threat to offload on every carry, given our right side attacks style, Buller, Toa, Taruva, they love that second phase. They eat it up. Both Buller and Toa are extreme threats, one-on-one, extreme threats off second phase. I think I'm very excited. I feel like next year our right side attack will go to another level with Kai Pearce-Paul there.
I certainly believe so, irrespective of who plays down that right side channel. That's a big body that's going to attract a lot of attention from the three-man. And if we can isolate him against opposition halves and utilise him in the way that Kai Pearce-Paul should be utilised, I think there's points there. That right edge is really building into something that is absolutely a strength for us. Going into the year, I think the major concerns that we had about that right edge defensively almost sort of concealed how good that right edge has been and will be in attack both this year and the years to come. Could anyone have foreseen the amount of try involvements that Stafford Torres had? No, but could you imagine what he'll be able to do? When Kai Pearce-Paul attracts defenders and further dismembers the defensive line. It's extremely exciting. I've been pretty open and honest about the fact that I think he is playing a little bit too heavy. Whether or not that's just a fact of getting older or Adam O'Brien's strength and conditioning plan or whoever does it at the Knights up there. I don't know if it's still Hayden Knowles, but he looks like he's playing still a couple of kilos overweight. I think that if we can strip a few kegs off his frame, I think he'll be a bit more mobile, a bit faster. And a lot of what he was renowned for in England, and I know it's a different league and I know it's a totally different quality, but the footwork, the passing game, the occasional short kick, the ability to really bunt through a tackle and get the arms free and for him to come out the other side, I really think you're going to see that. He's a massive attacking weapon for us. And considering that, we've churned through a lot of back rowers these last few years, to have Samuel Fainu on one side and Kai Pearce-Paul on the other for the next few years is really exciting and gives us an opportunity to bed down some proper combinations with some guys that are at a good age and people that we can build around for the long term.
Yeah, I think that the thing about Kai Pearce-Paul that excites me is that Kai Pearce-Paul in his current state would add value on the right to our attack if he just played the way he plays. But all he has to do is add one thing to his game and it'll make him an elite back rower in the system that we play, and that's hard line running. And that's something that's teachable. Like, that's something you can, and it's probably something that I expect that he can do if he's instructed to do so. Like, I feel like that the Newcastle Knights game plan simply just does not really often call for him to hit a line off of the back fence. And the one time, granted I haven't seen the Knights play all that much this season, but the one time that it seemed like that the play was designed for him to like hit a hole, he did a very good job of it. So I can certainly imagine, given Appy Coruscant loves that face ball, that like when he's close to the line, like look left, go right face ball, and he's got Alex Seyfarth many tries with that face ball. They're gonna have Kai Pearce-Paul having to learn to run that courage line because it's just part of our playbook, and I think that he'll do a fantastic job of it because he's a massive human. He'll be extraordinarily hard to stop one-on-one off the line off of Appy Coruscant's deception. And even if they do manage to get men in the tackle to like control him, they're not going to get him to the ground, and he's just going to dump it out the back to Jureen Buller or Heath Mason or whoever, and it's going to be very hard for teams to contain the right side West Tigers attack with Kai Pearce-Paul there instead of Alex Seyfarth.
Absolutely. Looking at the other side of the ball, I think that a lot of his cleanup work is probably not spoken about. There was a time last week where he did get caught back on the inside and sort of left a sizable gap.
He's not very agile.
But at the same time, you see him defend his line, and I've seen him, make try-saving tackles on guys like Dylan Brown, who are quite elusive. It makes a lot of tackles as a back row of 40+ most weeks, and isn't responsible for necessarily try causes on his line. Once again, the issues with agility and lateral movement, I still have some queries as to whether or not he's still playing a few kilos too heavy. You strip that off, and again, that may help his mobility and his ability to cover ground back on the inside. Well, we may not know that till later, but nonetheless, I think he's a more known and therefore a safer commodity defensively than Alex Seyfarth, in my view as well.
Yeah, he has what we lack, which is just physical presence, size. Like, he doesn't get bullied at the point of contact when he defends. He's susceptible in the ways all big forwards are, like a fleet-footed back catching him in open field without cover is going to make him look bad, but he's a big guy, and if he gets wrong-footed by an elite guy like in open field, so be it. But the West Tigers need more physical presence because we get dominated at the point of contact, and Alex Seyfarth gets dominated frequently at the point of contact. Most of the time when he makes one-on-one tackles, their legs tackles and his man gets to the front or breaks them. And that does not happen with Kai Pearce-Paul. So I see it the way you see it there. One other thing that I think Kai Pearce-Paul adds is probably a bit of flexibility in the long term. I think that, by the time he's maybe 28, I could easily see Kai Pearce-Paul transitioning into the middle. So it the way I look at it is like kind of buys us some time, right? Like to, maybe develop some guys that might not be ready for first grade over the next couple of seasons, the likes of the Phoenix Godinez coming through, or maybe, Lachlan Broadalow if he comes along. So it takes the pressure off. It's a really good signing. It's a good, is he going to be back rower of the year in the Daily M's next year? Probably not. Is he ever going to be? He has the potential to be, but probably not. But for the West Tigers, he's a fantastic signing. I'm very happy with it.
Couldn't agree more. Well done on the needs-based recruitment, Shane Richardson. Another recruitment which I don't think has actually polarised the fan base the way that I thought it would have, which you can take however you like. But it was announced today that Talon May has signed on a train and trial deal. This news broke on Monday, just as reserve grade were playing, that he had undergone a medical and was close to finalising terms with the Tigers. The train and trial deal, I think, is in the best interest of all parties. I think it probably puts Talon on notice. It means that we aren't, committing our future to Talon, and which is, good around sponsors and whatnot. And we've got to be really, really mindful here. Trouble follows Talon wherever he goes. Unfortunately, it's just a fact. Even before these charges were laid and subsequently dropped, there was some concerns there around some things that he was doing off field. Nonetheless, he is a West Tigers contracted player, albeit part time. But I just want to run you through the quotes that Shane gave today. Clearly, Talon is a quality player who will further strengthen our squad in the back end of the competition. But we also believe his best chance of success on and off the field is if he is around family and friends. Obviously, a lot of Penrith connections and Talon May there as well. Talon has made enormous strides since we first met him 10 weeks ago through voluntary attendance of education and counselling sessions. All players deserve a second chance, and we think this is the environment which gives him the best chance of success, both on and off the field. I do agree with the last sentence. Everybody does deserve a second chance. It's on Talon now to really make good and to show West Tigers and the greater NRL community that he has taken strides to work on himself for the betterment of those around him. Have you got anything there?
I have lots to say, and I want to be clear in saying that I understand that, like, I'm just a fan. So, my opinion doesn't mean all that much in the grand scheme of things. But I'm also a father of two girls and a partner. And I wouldn't have made this decision yet. It's not to say I would never have made this decision, because I'm not somebody who writes people off. I had a pretty troubled youth. I was a bit of a dickhead when I was in my 20s, and many would still say I'm a dickhead. So I'm all for giving people second chances, and I'm all for growth. But to say that he's made tremendous strides in the 10 weeks since we met him, it downplays the true amount of time that it takes for somebody to learn from their mistakes and to learn from their character, to change their character. Talon May's only punishment that he's received for the alleged crimes that he committed, which have been, withdrawn obviously, was to lose his spot at Penrith. That's a big deal, I get it. But his reward is now he gets to play for the West Tigers with his brother. So I don't know if I was in his position, if I would really be able to truly say that I felt like I had received any kind of, need to be redeeming myself. Like, what has actually happened, aside from him being put through something that frustrated him for a very small period of time? I don't think that it's enough time for a person to truly change. I don't think it's enough rehabilitation time for a person to truly change. Now, I want to caveat this by saying, obviously, no charges were... the charges were pressed and laid, but no conviction came. So innocent until proven guilty, and I get that. I truly do. I understand that. But I also understand that in domestic situations like this, women get put into positions where they feel, after a while, it happens all the time, they feel pressured for whatever reason to continue to, persevere in these situations. And it often leads to terrible outcomes for women in society. And men have to do better. Men have to do better for women in society in that way. And I hope, Talon definitely, has somehow learned from whatever mistakes that he's made. And I really hope that it's true that those mistakes never were made, right? But I think, I think you can read between the lines about my opinion on that. And putting football aside, Reedie, putting all the personal stuff aside, I'm not even that enthusiastic about the signing of him as a player. Like, I feel like it's quite overrated, to be honest. Look, it's a train and trial deal. Okay, that's great. We've signed plenty of train and trial players this season already in positions that he plays. We've signed Isaac Tuipupu, who has only really just started to put together his best form. He's been very, very good in New South Wales Cup. Charlie Staines has been playing really, really well in both first grade and New South Wales Cup. We've got Brent Naden there. We've got Solomon Afatape. We've got Josh Folletti, a top 30 player now, who's in Flegg. We've got Christian Mapapalangi, who is also a trainer trial player, and he can play centre, wing, and six. It's not a position that I'm super enthusiastic about feeling the need for us to have added a depth player. It's a position where I feel like, when I say a position, I mean left centre. is a position where we need a premium signing. Can Talon May be a premium left centre? Well, I feel like because he's a Panther, because he's an ex-Panther and his last name's May, I feel like people are overestimating exactly the level of impact that this guy is going to bring to the club. He's played most of his first grade on the wing. He's barely played centre in first grade at all. In fact, he's barely played centre at all. He's a winger. He played a couple of games in a pinch at centre when Isaac Tungo was out injured. And that's the extent of his experience as a centre as far as I know. So to expect that he will come in and play first grade at the West Tigers at left centre, I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I don't expect him to come and play first grade at the West Tigers at left centre and absolutely improve the position all that much, aside from the fact that it's an abysmal position in the first place. It's the fortune that he has is that there's not that much competition for the left centre position at the West Tigers.
Yes, and going back to sort of what you did say in regards to is he better than, Naden, Tuitupor, Mapapalangi, I think he objectively is. But I do agree with what you're saying around him playing left centre. He did an entire pre-season at left centre the year that he was obviously sacked, which was 2024. He put 8 games together there alongside Jerome Luai. Now, there was some question marks around his defence because I don't think people realise Talon was moved around his entire junior career. He played a bit of hooker, he played a bit of lock, a bit of fullback, but as time sort of went on, he was phased out. And given his speed and his strength, with Penrith's sort of game model, it made sense for him to play on the wing. He went through an ACL around the time that he was having some off-field troubles. I'm pretty sure he threw a bloke to the ground that was threatening Nathan Cleary. And then he came back via centre once he had rehabbed his leg. And, he off the back of that really started to show some great glimpses. Talon is a very, very powerful,
he's based
on quintessential Penrith bred eyes outside back. He makes a lot of sense from that point of view. I think that if you compare him physically to Adam Doueihi, he would leave Adam Doueihi for dead. But in terms of the subtleties of defending one in and whether or not he's able to make those reads, and look, Adam Doueihi, yes, he has not provided the attacking output that is anticipated of any NRL centre, let alone one outside Jerome Luai. But nonetheless, whether or not Talon can result in a positive points differential in regards to creating more points than he lets in, I don't know. But in saying that, as you say, Adam, I think, looks tired. I think there are issues with his body, and I think that he's not as strong or as physically imposing as one might sort of want. If Talon has been training and he is match fit, then I think it will be 4 to 6 weeks before we do see him on the field realistically. And it could be, hypothetically as well, that he comes into grade via the wing. Gerald Skelton has had hamstring problems all season. Stafford Torres missed games here and there as well. I think that Luke Laulea absolutely is the next cab off the rank, and Brent Naden had some really nice touches on the weekend. It must be said.
I'm not falling for that.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I do think that Talon will press his case quickly. Because once again, you look at where he's come from and his pedigree within that system, and the way that he was able to keep other players out, good players out of that 17 multiple times. I do think that he will be playing for first grade, providing that he plays his cards right and really buys in off field and continues to work on himself. I do believe he'll be playing first grade within weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I know he's good. I consider Talon May, at least I have this feeling that Talon May is essentially going to pan out to look like a premium Tyrone May. That's what it vibes like to me. I think he's a utility. As you point out, he's played a lot all over the place, and I think that once Luke Laulea and Hiamasi Marcassini really lock down spots in the West Tigers back five, I think Talon May's potential at the West Tigers probably does lie in being, a utility like Tyrone May was at the Panthers when Tyrone May was a Panther. I don't think that he's the same level of talent as Luke Lawley and Marcy Marcassini. I don't think that he'll end up as good as either of them. I think that the right edge is very much locked in for the next 2 to 3 years, assuming we can re-sign Stafford Tor. And Jareem Buller is not going to lose his fullback jersey to Talon May. So, but at the same time, I just want to point out, look, at the end of the day, I agree. Redemption. Give a guy a chance. I get it. I give a guy a chance. He's got a chance. I'm gonna give him a chance. I'm not gonna death ride him. I'm gonna root for him. I'm gonna give him a shot. I don't like whataboutism. I don't like this. Oh well, if Ezra Mam can still have a career, so can Talon. Like, I get why you would say that, but to me, I don't care. Like, I don't think Ezra Mam should be playing rugby league right now. I think he should be in prison. So, like, that doesn't mean shit to me. I'm a West Tigers supporter, not a Brisbane Broncos supporter. It's my job to hold my club accountable as much as I possibly can, not hold Brisbane Broncos accountable. Like, I don't care what the Brisbane Broncos do. I wouldn't have made the decision yet. I do like that it's a train and trial deal. I do like we didn't just give him a top 30 deal. I think he needs that. I think he needs to know that he needs to still prove stuff, and that's how you do it. I would have just waited till the off season to do it. But I suppose that I suppose we were pushed into it by the fact that the South Sydney Rabbitohs seem to have genuine interest in him. I think that's probably why this has ended up happening the way that it did. It felt like to me like Richo was trying to wait it out and give Talon longer, and I feel like that. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Talon came in and was like, hey, by the way, actually, you know what? In the off-season, I'm going to take a Mormon mission to fucking Utah. I'm that converted. I'm full different now. Look at me. I'm going to get this tattoo removed. Here's the appointment that's scheduled, maybe.
Yeah, well, look, as you say,
Who knows, man?
Look, I think they might have been pressured into it, obviously given the interest around South and Warrington, even though I don't think he was going to go there. Nonetheless...
Adam Dewey's form probably helped.
Yes, that a trade and trial deal suits all parties. And, mate, like, compared to Luke or Marcy, he is more first grade ready to play left centre. I think that Luke could come in and do a job at fullback or left wing, but in terms of left centre, I don't think he's there yet. And Marcy, I think, is still a couple of years off. I think it's good to have depth for spots. Purely objectively, and that's that. Look, again, if he plays his cards right, does the right things, buys in, continues to work on himself, and the club are happy, he'll have a top 30 deal next year.
He'll have a top 30 deal by the end of June 30. Like, it seems cynical to give him a train and trial deal when we only have 27 spots nailed down. Like, I get the only justification for it is the optics. And when you're doing things just for optics, it's kind of bullshit. But anyway, it is what it is.
It is. Brent Reed sort of covered the fact that we had signed him to a train and trial deal in an article that also contained some information around Adam Reynolds. Just quoting the article here, Brisbane have been locked in talks with Reynolds over a 1-year extension, but the Tigers have made their interest known, and it is understood that they have tabled a more lucrative deal as they lure him back to Sydney. It is understood that Reynolds could make a call as early as this week. I'll come out and say it. I think this is a smokescreen, and this is what I think. This article's come out via Brent Reed, and Richardson uses Brent Reed to manipulate things to his liking, whether it be for, sort of perception amongst the rugby league sphere, whether it's, to try and, utilise it as a club mouthpiece or anything like that. I think that this is to put a little bit of pressure on Brisbane. There's also the enriched digital stuff. They look after his IP and his digital. They look after his...
I
think this is almost like, Reno, play along just for a little bit. We're going to extract every single dollar out of Brisbane for you to maximise your earning potential. Let Uncle Richo handle it. And while that happens, we'll make Brisbane overpaid and it'll force somebody out that we want. Who do we want? It's probably Kobe Hetherington. Do I want Kobe Hetherington? I don't want Kobe Hetherington.
You had me there until the... What a grand manipulative scheme to get Kobe Hetherington.
But I'm dead set. Richardson offered him a 4-year deal over the summer.
Yeah, but he doesn't...
Highly he rates him like the plays on the bench. It's because he's obsessed with country right-wing conservative Queenslanders. Much like himself.
Oh, is that what you think it is?
he told me. But nonetheless,
Oh,
I do think this is all part of the shaking the tree. This is the providing the breeze that gives him the momentum to really give that fucking trunk a good old shake and see what comes out of it. Because Brisbane's cap is cactus.
it's cactus.
So, and Darren Lockyer
And they now have to extend Haas.
That's right. And look, you look at what Latu Fainu is doing in the middle corridor. We are not that stupid. Look, if it was a 12-month apprenticeship, maybe, sure. But I think Latu's ready now. And you look at what he's doing through the middle corridor and what he could do, another couple of passes wider, he could fully dismantle opposition edge defences. There's some... And whether or not, we have a genuine 7 there. But nonetheless, I don't think that they will risk losing Latu Fainu just to have Adam Reynolds in the building for 12 months. Stranger things have happened, but I just think a little bit of a smokescreen.
I don't think that Latu Fainu has anything closely resembling a mortgage on a 6 or 7 jersey enough for me to say that we wouldn't take Adam Reynolds with 2 hands if the opportunity presented itself. If Adam Reynolds is genuinely available, he will be a West Tiger. Like, if he's genuinely available and we make the best offer and he genuinely does humour leaving Brisbane, we're not going to not sign him. Like, we will sign him. Like, and don't be surprised if that's how this ends up panning out, because the Brisbane cap is that fucked. And Brisbane are in the first year of the Madge era, and they will give Madge time. And if at the end of this year or even like later this month, if Madge says, "Nah, man, I can't work with this roster," they will blow it up and rebuild it around Payne Haas. And it will be literally rebuilt around Payne Haas. And that means everyone will be available to some extent. They will not overpay for anybody. They have some fantastic young talent that they will turn towards, and the likes of Black and so on. Adam Reynolds could easily just be like they might say to him, 12-month extension, we'll give you a veteran minimum style contract, and he just might not like that enough. That being said, everything else you said about like the shell game, there's definitely truth to it. Like, there's truth to what you're saying about it being part of this is about driving Brisbane into a position where something has to give. I think we've already driven Brisbane into a position where something has to give, because I feel like that there is a signing announcement coming around the corner from a Brisbane Broncos player to the West Tigers. I just don't know which one it is. I don't think that we would be doing this with just the exclusive goal of, forcing Kobe Hetherington to be the one to pop out. I think Kobe Hetherington's going to pop out. I don't think you have to do anything for Kobe Hetherington to pop out. I think Kobe Hetherington is as good as having his bags packed. And I do think that if Kobe Hetherington does, become surplus to needs at Brisbane Broncos, he will walk into Concord with a golden ticket. Like, I think that will be... I think it's I would say right now it's very short odds that Kobe Hetherington is a West Tiger in 2026, regardless of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, he's a bit of he's been a bit comedic the way he's been playing footy recently. He took an unreal hit up, and then in very West Tigers fashion, he just dropped the ball cold.
I mean, Kobe Hetherington may well be taking the piss. Like, there's because I feel like Kobe Hetherington wanted to leave Brisbane, and Madge kind of nixed it, right? And you've seen how many times that's happened to us, where once a player's got it in their mind they don't want to be there, they float in and out of games, game to game, they're inconsistent. Even the ones that have good work ethic, still, it's hard, man. It's hard to have that and come back from it. You see Isaiah Papali'i, he hasn't even been able to recover his entire career since he hasn't even been able to recover his career at Penrith. He lost his motivation and will to play the game at the level required. So, look, I don't particularly give a crap about whether or not Kobe Hetherington ends up at the West Tigers. I think he will. I think the game is just trying to unravel them and put as much pressure as humanly possible on that club, because the Brisbane Broncos are the club that Shane Richardson would have the absolute most capacity to manipulate because of his Brisbane connections and because he has player connections at that club and relationships with all sorts of people throughout the Queensland Rugby League system. So it makes sense for him to target them for that reason alone. But then when you look at the amount of players they have off contract, not just off contract this year, but next year, in positions that we need players too, right? Like they've got Tony Staggs off contract still. They've got Selwyn Cobbo off contract, who they've just dropped. And I would not be surprised if Selwyn Cobbo is also en route to Concord, to be honest, after being dropped. I don't see how he will stay at the Brisbane Broncos. I think we could have a full conversation about Selwyn Cobbo being a potential signing with the West Tigers. I've heard heaps of rumours dating back years about Selwyn Cobbo being on Richo's radar. So I think I wouldn't sign him personally. I think he's a reclamation project for a glamour club. I think Melbourne would turn him into an absolute superstar, but I could certainly see us having a nibble there. There's so many reasons to be going after them because they just have so many players that would improve our roster. And Benji Marshall is a coach that is better suited to those players than Madge is. For everything people say negatively about Benji Marshall, those younger type, new era type players seem to love him, and they cannot stand Madge.
You nailed it. We'll see what happens. Watch this space. Hopefully something out of the tree of note falls. You spoke about Benji Marshall just before. Benji Marshall is in the news because he's about to be sanctioned by the NRL. Why? Because he had a pop at the match officials. Rightly so. Well done, Benji. If he gets fined, we won't start a petition. We'll start a GoFundMe. Well, that's our contribution from the West Tigers podcast network to wider society. Why? Because I totally agree with him. There was also some key calls that he missed. Be proud of your footy side. Yeah, okay, we lost. It was disappointing, but far out. They put up one hell of a fight against the Premiers. Forget where they are on the ladder. They are a far better team than their win-loss record suggests. We went toe-to-toe. We got in the grind. And it is very clear that this team is playing for their coach. And furthermore, it seems that the old Galvin Gate really destabilised this side, but they found their mojo again. The great Tiger Cast said earlier that earlier through the week that it was probably our second best performance of the year. The Warriors game that we also ironically lost, being the best. I certainly walked away from that game quite hopeful for the run ahead, in spite of some pretty glaringly bad calls from the match officials once again.
Can you put that in the form of a question, Jared?
I can. Mac, what was your take on the game and by extension the officiating that West Tigers copped?
I don't know if anybody noticed, but I was the first person who started this whole hip drop gate thing. It was like 2 minutes after full time. I uploaded a video with my commentary over it. I can't believe how divided people are about the hip drop. I know I'm immediately going into hip drop, but like, am I taking crazy pills, Jared?
Hold on a minute. I don't think you're in like it's not polarizing. It's not 50-50. It's not, a coin flip. If you go and have a look at the NRL's post of the try saver from Scott Sorensen, and yes, it was a good effort to get there, but the tackle itself was deplorable. But if you have a look at the top comments on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, is that not a hip drop, textbook hip drop, etc., etc. It's a pretty loud minority saying that it wasn't. But if you look up the definition of what it is, he loses his legs, he swings his body around and utilises that movement to bring Jareem Bullitt down. He puts the entirety of his lower body on Jareem's legs. It's just one of those things where you sit back and you go, my God, like what is going on? But like it's compounded further by these issues of, the fucking Blaze Talangi collision. The footage showed that Jerome had laid a hand on him before he'd even put boot to ball. Like, are we being serious here? There was a crusher tackle that was made by Moses Leota that wasn't even penalised, let alone like put on report. It's just, and then compounded even further. King's birthday game, 3 straight 6 agains. Where was the mandatory sin bin? It was nowhere to be seen. That which was a call that completely bungled our fixture against the Cowboys the week previous. West Tigers are an exception to these rules. It is. I don't know what it is. And yes, good teams deal with these shit calls. I get it, but we're not fucking Canberra. We're not like Canberra, who played Eastern Suburbs last Sunday and could deal with shit call after shit call after shit call. This is an important time in our franchise's history. We sit here with a coach whose career is on the line no matter which way you spin it, okay? We could genuinely go either way. If we finish in the bottom four and we finish 2 or 3 games below sort of position 12 or 11, he will be in the gun. Like, this is fate that you're fucking playing with. And this is the concern. And I was a match official. I'm a state-graded New South Wales touch football referee.
New South Wales touch football referee of the year.
So some may have said that. Nonetheless, it's the fact that some calls are pulled up for us and others go completely astray, when in other games the opposite occurs, and that is what is disappointing. I don't expect referees to get it right all the time, but fuck, if we could get some consistency, I think our win-loss record would be a little bit different.
So, I mean, like, what's the root cause? I mean, there's... when you've watched enough Tigers games, and especially when you've watched enough other games as well to put it into perspective, it's pretty apparent. And I think that we made a comment earlier in the year that it feels like this year the Tigers games are being officiated poorly. It's less specifically just against us. It's happening to other teams against us, or it was a bit more earlier in the year. Now it seems to have reverted back to the mean. And I know what it sounds like to people who aren't, like, week in, week out West Tigers viewers. Like, to neutral fans who probably only watch their own team, it probably just sounds like we're being like...
Well, the Doofy's gone berserk in the comments section.
Who cares? Well, like, let the people in the comments react to that guy. Like, somebody needs to post up in the... There's a great Twitter follow by the name of Ross Catanzariti. And a couple of years ago, he made an exceptional tweet highlighting all of the extraordinarily unlikely, exceptionally unlikely things that have happened to the West Tigers over our short lifespan. Look, I understand why he would be like looking at it and going, "Fuck, you guys sound like pussy ass crybabies." I get why somebody who isn't familiar with that stuff, but also you forget. Because some of these things that have happened to us over the years are, iconically embarrassing moments for the NRL. Like how long ago was it that the soft whistle happened, right? Like, so I don't want to bang on about this shit, but like to try to victim blame West Tigers fans for, having this like victim mentality about like these calls is, it's being short-sighted, especially if you're a fan of a club that never has any of that stuff go wrong. Like, I don't hear Titans fans coming out and actually complaining about how Tigers fans talk about this shit, because Titans fans are victims of it too. Seems to exclusively come from clubs that get the constant rub of the green. Is there any truth to what he's saying? Like, is it the Tigers victim mentality that causes this? No. Like, do you honestly think that the Tigers' results are dictated to by the, rhetoric of the fans? Like, are you a fucking hippie or something? Like, what a stupid thing to say. Like, I can say that, like, you make your own luck. I get that. I subscribe to that theory. You make your own luck. Like, teams that play upbeat and teams that play optimistically and teams that... bad things still happen to them, but the ball doesn't bounce away from them so much. That shit's definitely real. It definitely happens, and it definitely happens to the Tigers. That's why I've been using the phrase pit of despair. Like, we're in that fucking Tigers pit of despair again. So I understand that perspective too. I understand the Tigers sort of get into this mode where they start to, like, unravel. But the only way out of that pit of despair is to get a little bit of luck too, man. Like, Lachlan Galvin dropping the ball over the line cost us a win 2 weeks ago, and now he's, like, masquerading around, like, layering it up at the Bulldogs. Like, how could you be a West Tigers fan and not feel like shit when stuff like this happens all the time? The hip drop is a fucking hip drop. Like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Like, the only reason... I'll break this down. Sorry, Jared. I'll break this down. And by the way, epic rant. Great rant. the rebuttal that I'm seeing to this hip drop is that Sorensen didn't make contact with the back of Dream's legs. Now, while he did vividly make contact with the back of Dream's legs, the argument is that, it was incidental. Most of the contact ended up around the side of Dream, right? The reality is that the action that he made, he ran up from behind, grabbed him, and leapt off the ground and swung around and put all of his weight through his hip into the back of Dream's legs. If Jareem Buller did not collapse in a screaming heap and tried to hold his upright position, the amount of, essentially 110 kilos of Scott Sorensen would have, immediately went into both of his knee tendons. So by essentially creating a reckless position, throwing his body into the ether, into the fucking sky around Jareem Buller's body, he made Jareem Buller choose between scoring a match-winning try or having his season ended. Now, the NRL have created this little checklist of KPIs that dickheads will look at as some sort of sacrosanct rule book to determine what does and does not define a hip drop. I don't give a fuck what the NRL do. They're the most incompetent administration in the history of the game. They made the rule in the first place to stop players from recklessly damaging superstars' legs with the hip drop tackle. That is what Scott Sorensen did. So whether if the NRL, through their KPI definitions, have somehow managed to legalize one of the most dangerous tackles in the game again, all the power to them. The only reason Jareem Buller didn't score a try is because Jareem Buller had the athletic nous to know that he had to fall like a professional wrestler instantly to stop himself from being injured. That's the only reason that Penrith won that game. I don't see how you can argue with me on this.
Be arguing.
People will, but you can. Oh, but it's not a penalty by the definition. Okay, cool. It's not a penalty by the definition. Whatever. Then, next week when one of our players performs a very similar hip drop, invariably, we know what'll happen because this is fucking shit that just happens to us, isn't it? We just know that somebody's going to perform a hip drop that's not a hip drop and get sinned in for it. It's the next logical thing that happens. I know how this probability wave collapses.
Indeed. Looking at the game itself, 2 weeks in a row we've been picked apart from scrums. I know that we obviously, the game against the Cowboys, Scott Drinkwater scored from it, but if you go back and have a look at the footage, Sunea Taruva is marking nobody on the blind side. He is genuinely marking the ghost of 2005. And then, Penrith did their homework and they scored off it. Again, which is extremely disappointing. And, the gaps that were left for Tom Jenkins to score that first try, was extremely disappointing. But, look, there were a lot of positives to take out of that game. The ability to remain in the fight and to continue in spite of, again, some acrimonious calls. But I guess my main shout-out is for Sione Fainu starting in the engine room for the first time in the NRL against the four-time premiers. 11 runs for 106 metres, 27 tackles made, 3 missed, 1 ineffective. But nonetheless, this guy just continues to go from strength to strength. Tony Sukar is looking every single bit the first grader. There's always been a theory that, he plays to the grade. I absolutely subscribe to that belief. He has this, innate ability to come out the other side of the collision, which is something that only first grade players can do. And Latu Fainu's return from injury was excellent. So a lot of his game was built off some excellent defensive work in the middle. He is so good defensively for a kid of his age and his size, and his ability to square up defenders, use his eyes and his hips to manipulate the defensive line how he likes. It gets me salivating, to be honest. It's really interesting, and I said earlier in my rant that we are really, really evenly poised. We are at a very, very crucial time in this franchise's history. I saw enough on Sunday to believe that we will have a better run home than a lot of people think. This comp is very, very even. Anybody can beat anybody on their day. I am confident that we will have a run home that will provide optimism for the years to come.
I hope so. I mean, the side's definitely improved. There's no questioning that. It's just this fucking pit of despair curse thing. It's like four losses in a row. Aside from the Melbourne game, up to our eyeballs in them. And there's been other games this year like the High Flying Warriors. Like we came within a whisker of beating. Obviously, round one, we probably should have won that game. In hindsight, it's a bad loss. We've been performing super well, but we're just still fucking can't find ways to put 2 points on the board, and that's why the decisions frustrate. Like I would love nothing more than to come off the back of that game and just be like, God, they played good. But we went down to the 4-time premiers, and there's no excuses. But God, they played good. I hate that we should have won that game. I hate that, and this is the only reason Benji actually finally grew a spine, because he rightly pointed out that we didn't lose that game because we lost the game. We lost the game because of a refereeing decision, right? Like and he's not talking about the hip drop. He's talking about the Luai penalty, because they scored straight off it, right? Like after Luai got penalised for that ridiculous late tackle. Anyway, I'd love that. I'd love to just get an even, or even if it wasn't even, just not major like match-defining rulings, right? I think I could sort of see the writing on the wall when we fucking made that ridiculous challenge in the first 10 minutes of the game and lost our challenge. Like I just knew, like the Tigers are a side that have learned how to challenge well, and we've used it to stave off so many terrible decisions. Like, I feel like that's something that we should probably start trying to track, is how many howlers the West Tigers have had to, like, overrule. I've seen so many this season where, like, we've challenged super well. That was the first time this year I can really remember us losing a really bad challenge super early in the game. On to the players. I thought, I agree with all of your call-outs. I think that they were all really, really good. I thought it was Jerome Luai's best game by orders of magnitude. I think he was superb. And if he didn't get penalised for those 2 ridiculous penalties... Oh, the escort I think was a penalty, personally. I might be alone in that. I thought he intentionally did knock that player over. But the late tackle... If we won that game and he didn't get penalised, he'd man of the match by a mile, right? Like, he was fantastic. Please keep it up. Like, that's the Jerome Luai that we're paying the big bucks for. Didn't play like a 7. Played like a 6, but very, very effective. Good running the ball. Really needs to put away that, like, when he jumps back across, he causes stress to the defenders, but he needs to not be popping that ball off unless there's a cue where he knows there's somebody hitting that hole that he's looking for. Because that pass where he came back against the grain and just lobbed it like fucking like he was throwing rope, like that that's what it looked like. Is like it just trickled onto the ground like grandpa's fucking load. And he needs Buller steaming onto that, or Fainu or somebody, right? There's nobody. And that's the same pass that he threw. Was it in the Origin last year that led to a try? Like that's like his move. That's his move. That's his best move, and he expects his teammates to be able to read that he's doing that, because he knows that if anybody catches that ball, and he's right, if anybody catches that pass, we got them fucked because of what he's just done. He's just come back across. He's drawn 3 men. He's probably got Taruva and Toa both with an overlap. I thought Appy made 58 tackles. That's a big effort for a little man. That's a huge effort. Big effort in the middle there for him. 7 missed tackles. It's not great, but we know he's not a defensive titan. There were times throughout that game where I was waiting for Appy to do an Appy thing, and he just didn't do it. I want to see Appy take more control over the attack. I think that our best wins are built off of Appy Coruscant moments. I think our best moments in games are when Appy Coruscant does something. And I can see Appy's trying to be selfless, and he's trying to, like, play to the structure. He's trying to, like, ensure that Jerome gets the chance to, do what he needs to do to improve. But we're past that point in the season now where we need to be looking for combos and stuff. We need to be winning games. We need to be scoring tries. And our best chance of doing that is with Api Coruscant taking the bit between the teeth and doing Api Coruscant things. When we're close to the line, I want to see Api Coruscant, running plays from the ruck. When we're in our own half coming out of our own end, I want to see Api Coruscant running plays for, like, Mason and Buller through the center. Like, I want to see more plays coming off Api Coruscant. I don't, like, 3 or 4 more times per game, because it seems like every time Api Coruscant tries to do something, it comes off. Like, Api Coruscant is a freak, like, but he doesn't try often enough. Like, lately he's not trying often enough. It's like we have to get put on the back foot before he, like, really has a crack.
And we spoke about it pretty extensively through the trial period, where Uppy is so important for what happens out wide because he's got to drag in ABC. And if he doesn't drag in ABC, then, if they don't commit to those players inside, within the middle corridor, you pass the ball to them. We were so excited with the weapons he was going to have around him in regards to Terrell and Royce and so forth. And I agree with you. I don't think we've really seen enough of that. We're seeing a lot of this. I'm going to get up and do a demonstration. This quarterback play that he does, where he comes back and it's almost like the blockers go forward and then he looks to find an option. Uppy's best work is typically when he turns his hips one way and he'll swing the ball back the other, or he tells a lie with his eyes.
Runs.
Well, we're not really seeing that. I agree with you. I think that, in order for Latu and Jerome and Heath, obviously by extension, whether or not he remains at 6 for the time being, I'm not too sure. I don't think he will. But irrespective of who's there, you will make their job easier by doing that. So please, Uppy, please start doing that again. We really miss it.
On the subject of Latu Fainu, so you mentioned before when we were talking about the potential signing of Reynolds that, you were super excited by what you saw from Latu, and me too. I thought, like, at one point there when he came on the field, it felt like I was watching a player who had, like, some sort of, like, buff, like, like a video game buff. Like, it was almost like the screen resolution changed when he had the ball. Like, he's that fast. And, like, I don't know, like, he's definitely got something. I think the thing is...
niche reference. Over the hedge, the Steve Carell, the squirrel that he plays, and he fucking sips on the energy drink and everything slows down.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
That's Latu. Like, he just has eons worth of time. And again, it is his ability to do all the things that, fucking Matty Johns and Cooper Cronk talk about in regards to subtleties of halfback play. Outside foot up, look inside, play outside, look long,
He's
play
a freak,
short.
man.
Like, he ticks every single box. He's genuinely a fucking coach's wet dream, because all you have to do is basically say to him, play fucking straight, target him, isolate this defender with this attacker, and if that doesn't work, throw the footy out the back. He does everything right. And, again... we keep on saying that he just needs to be hit on the arse by a rainbow. If he can get that and he can string together, some solid months of footy in the back end of the year, like he will go from here to here in regards to how, where he can springboard from round 126.
He looks...
Whether or not, we do sign a halfback, because you'll be in the 17. He's too good not to be.
Well, that's what I was getting at, is I feel like that he... Like, it might be wasted to a degree in 13, but fuck, he would kill us at 13. He's and I say that because partially I was blown away by his physical presence. Like, since last seeing him, like, he's never been like a weak half. Like, ever since I've been watching him play, he's been a thumper. Like, he can hit, and he's hard to, like, even when he runs the ball, like, forwards don't like tackling him. Like, he's a finder, that's for fucking sure. But he looks bigger again, and he looks lean. He looks bulky, like he's got, like, good muscle on his frame now, and I think that will help him, stave off potential injuries. You need that. I can't wait to see him play 80 in first grade. Like, I hope
I hope he's the 6 against Canberra. I hope this was enough of a trial by fire for Benji to just roll the dice on him. On the subject of that, I think Mason has been really impressive. I've really liked what I've seen from Heath Mason in attack. It's weird. On paper, he had 11 missed tackles, 15 tackles and 11 missed tackles. But I don't really recall seeing any moments where his defense seemed to... I feel like his missed tackle count's a little bit misleading because of the amount of effort that he puts in. I feel like that he's not afraid to just, get a hand on a guy just to try to slow a play down, and it counts as a missed tackle, but he's actually, it's actually a positive contribution in defense when he does it. That kind of defender. Not a stats patter, but there was a few times there, he had over 100 running meters. I can't say that I felt like we've particularly. It hasn't felt like that we've gone from a strength to a weakness by moving from Galvin to Mason. I don't think that Mason has been that far off of what Galvin was producing. So good. I'm glad. I'm happy for Heath. I think Latu is the better talent. So I hope moving forward we see him there. But there's definitely a place for Heath, and Heath offers a good challenge for Latu. I think Heath is low key potentially a first grade 6. I think he's probably a year or two away from being a truly good one, but the potential's there, and he's obviously got plus utility value.
Absolutely, and further to that point, I think he's said multiple times that he wants to be that 14. I think we've spoken about it on air and off air. But in terms of where he gets reps, I'm not too sure. And Bryce mentions in the comments that he doesn't think that Uppy can bring much magic when he's playing 80, and Yakan says that the TDS would do a job there and certainly help with that as well. I think Talon getting minutes in Cup is best for his long-term development, whether or not wherever he ends up. And I think that Uppy's attacking output, I don't think has really been staked off. Does he lose his ability to explode through the ruck? Yeah, quite possibly. But nonetheless, I think I don't think he's necessarily let anyone down. But yeah, look, the main thing is that I think that Benji genuinely has some selection headaches, which is nice for a change. In terms of who he runs at 6 and who he runs at 14. I think Latu is the obvious answer at 6, but whether you run a Talon or a Heath Mason on the bench is one the bench is going to have to decide about. But I don't think that Mason's done anything to be dropped, which is an interesting one.
I think the argument that Appy is less effective when he plays 80 only applies to his defense, and I think we've already kind of busted that myth. If we had a Talon to Silver level 9 who did not miss tackles, then bring that player off of the bench. But when that player is a worse defender than Tired Appy, you can't. Appy Coruscant can bring magic 20 minutes into the game, 25 minutes into the game. He's not tired after 20 minutes or 25 minutes. I will say, to your point though, Bryce, there have been some fantastic Appy moments that have come from him coming back off on the field after a rest. So we are potentially missing that second wind Appy that comes onto the field from a rest. But what I don't see much of is Appy Coruscant pulling out those magic moments in the first half of games or early enough in games, and I feel like that's because he's not actually trying, and I feel like that's probably got something to do with the game script that we write. It's like high completion, go through the motions for 20 minutes, and you don't see the Tigers start to actually play with much flair until they're playing either catch-up football or they get the sense that they're really well on top of their opposition. And obviously you don't see the second very often. So you only really see us playing with flair when we're playing with catch-up, and that's when Appy goes, I'm going to have to be Appy now. And when I say I want to see more of Appy playing Magic, I feel like I just want to see Appy be Appy all the time. Just be Appy all the time, bro. Just play. He needs to play as though we're playing from behind when we're not behind. And I feel like that we'd be a better team if he did that. What do you think about the bench usage? The fact that Kit Lololi'i didn't get a run on the field in a game where we didn't even have, middle forwards on the bench?
It's a real concern. I think that we've been over it. It happened on Easter Monday as well, where Benji doesn't There's times where he just won't call upon players because he doesn't trust them. I think that given the grind of the game, whether or not Kit would have been the right guy to put on, I'm not too sure. But given Latu, the way that he came on and performed when thrust into that 13 role, I think it almost saw Benji make changes on the run. Now, I could be completely wrong because I think that his bench rotation has been pretty well scripted for the most part. But, it's an interesting one. It does make me wonder in regards to, what the game looks like had Kit been there. We've always had concerns about his lateral movement and sometimes his defensive attitude. In a game like that, I'm not too sure what way that would have went. But nonetheless, it doesn't help when you're playing with 16 men and, when you're running Latu Fayunu, Jack Bird and Charlie Murray as your three middles, none of which are of a decent size. And Latu's got leg speed, but ultimately he's a 6, playing in the middle corridor. It does make me wonder. What do you think?
Pretty loaded question, I have to admit, Jared, for me to ask you, because I actually, going into this game, thought it was ridiculous. I was going to say a different word starting with "r," but I filtered myself. I thought it was ridiculous, but if you look at the way that the game unfolded, I mean, for the second week in a row, when we went small ball, when we, went with smaller players, we came home with a wet sail. We just couldn't get points. We were the better team in the last 10 minutes by a mile. Like, we had them under all sorts of pressure. And in the previous game, same thing, right? We had 28, we scored like 22 unanswered points against the Cowboys. So it seems to me like West Tigers might play better with smaller players, like really. Maybe you get the bruisers out there to get the sting out of the game in the first 20 and you just go full small ball. I think there was one point during this game where we had Mason, Latu, Luai, Appy, Charlie Murray. The only sizable forwards we had on the field at the time were May and Samuel Fayunu. Like, it was a tiny set, 13 on the field. Jack Bird was on the field at the same time. And we looked good at the time. I remember looking at it going, it's odd. It's actually an odd testament to Benji Marshall that he's actually adjusted to the meta. It seems like he's a little bit ahead of the curve, even though we're not winning games, in the sense that, at those times, you see even a player like Jack Bird starting to get post-contact meters. And when you can see a player like Jack Bird getting post-contact meters in the middle, it's like, oh, okay, it's right to be playing small players at that time of the game, and he's timing it well. So, I kind of had to Benji for it, to be honest. I was worried that size was going to be a problem, but maybe Benji's sort of resetting the meta of the game a little bit by going full small.
Quite possibly. Anything else to touch on this?
He's a smart guy. I mean, he's Benji freaking Marshall. He invented most of the modern meta of attacking football, so it would make sense that he would be a little bit forward-thinking. I know his coaching mentor was, the most attacking genius coach of all time, or so they call him.
Indeed. Anything else to touch on?
Jarrell Skelton in his return was sensational. What a hit. That hit he put on. Oh, he's going to have it. By the end of his career, he's going to have a highlight reel of smashing hits. Stafford Tola now leads the NRL in try involvements.
Indeed. You can't just
Stafford
ask
Toa
what
has. Stafford Toa has. He has more. He has the most try assists to another player, but he has also the most try involvements because he's got 8 try assists to Sunia Taruv. All these try assists to the same player too, I think. I thought Murray was okay on debut. I think he surprised me in some respects. I thought running the ball, he was a little bit more impactful than I thought he would be. I thought that he would be very, very wet paper towel running the ball, but he did have a little bit of punch. I thought his defensive involvements were really good for the most part. I like the way he defends. He keeps his eyes in the right place, doesn't turn his back when he's returning to the defensive line, which is freaking awesome, honestly. No, look, the more I think about it, for a debut, I was pretty impressed. If you could get that player up to the point where he was like a 80-minute 13, you could get a lot of value out of a guy like that just because of the amount of how do I say, connective tissue that he creates in the defensive line. The fact that he'll be the guy that's there to take the dirty hit up when everybody else is kind of needing to suck in a big one. Like players like that have their place in the NRL, and we don't really have a guy like that in our top 17. I mean, Alex Seyfarth's a little bit like that, but Alex Seyfarth's also got way too many howlers in him. Could Charlie Murray sort of take over the role that Alex Twal was playing, except maybe also do it for 80 minutes? I think he probably could. I know in the off-season I was kind of really hoping that we would see progression from Bailey Hodges, and he's a similar kind of player. I think Charlie Murray's a couple of years older than Bailey and probably a lot tougher. So good on Charlie Murray. I'll take my medicine. I thought he was gonna be a pretty average performer, but I can certainly see potential.
Just quick word of the wise, Charlie, if you are listening or somebody close to you is, don't give away penalties 5 out from half-time as a West Tiger. You know where it ends.
Yes, that penalty was frustrating, but at the same time, it was a 50-50, Like it was almost like a scripted penalty the referee felt like they needed to give a new guy. It's like, this ain't Queensland Cup anymore, Chuck.
I don't disagree. Nonetheless, we move on. A lot of positive signs. Fingers crossed they manifest into win. Which they will, because I'm manifesting these wins. 34 all draw for our New South Wales Cup side against a rather well-drilled Canterbury side. A lot of people will remember this as Mitch Woods' New South Wales Cup debut, which was obviously televised, but I think that the Magpies did some pretty exceptional work to come back from an 18-0 deficit, and then eventually I think it was a 34-20 deficit. Did really, really well to hang in there. I think that both teams will rue opportunities to not come away with 2 points as opposed to 1, but nonetheless, some standout performers which I'll sort of run through really quickly. I thought most of the back line was really good. Luke Laulii continued his great run of form at the back. Charlie Staines with some really tough carries out of yardage and a great finish in the right hand corner. Isaac Tuitupou, who you touched on earlier, is really coming into his own in this grade for this team, which is great. I think, your calls around match fitness and my calls around, playing to structure, have sort of, really, come to fruition. Brent Naden had some great touches. Christian Mapapalangi's quick hands were great. Kurt Falls had a mixed bag, I thought. Logan Spinks, sort of made a meal of him.
Off contract, that guy, isn't he, Spinks?
Through the second half, but yeah, he is actually. But Falsey had some great involvement, some great touches. But the main one that I really want to touch on is Jackson Rami. I really do think this guy is improving week to week. He's had a great 4-week stretch of footy. He's 21 years old. Junior, former Oz schoolboy, a lot to like about him. But just his aggression on both sides of the ball is something that we lack in most grades. I really do think he's playing his ass off for a full-time deal. So yeah, good to see the boys split honours with a team that is extremely well drilled and part of a very, very good system.
Now I can give away my earlier spoiler of the player that would be my first signing if I was the Mal Meninga coached Perth Reds.
Jackson Rami.
No. Charlie Staines. Charlie Staines, and I wouldn't make that signing because I think Charlie Staines is like an out and out top 17 first grader. Well, I couldn't ask for a better squaddy. Value for money for a new club to sign a player. You get that guy for 250k, 220k, right? And he can play fullback, he can play wing, he can play center. He'd have no dramas playing reserve grade. He's such an easy signing, and I think when you're building a roster like that, I think what Redcliffe did was so good, because Redcliffe focused so much on building the nuts and bolts roster, so that if they were forced into having to, have young guys playing in positions that were super important, like Katoa, right? Obviously they were trying to make marquee signings, but they know that they can't necessarily make those marquee signings. So make the nuts and bolts of the roster just solid players that are going to do a good job. Charlie Staines is the definition of it. I think it's like a genius.
You called from way out the free agency special that I referenced earlier, you were keeping Staines. I was not. I'll happily get my words. I think he's been great when called upon in first grade, and that attitude and that form has carried through to reserve grade. And this side's had a little bit of a resurgence in the last couple of weeks. This Cup side, and this team will be absolutely be better for it with him in there. I really do hope we keep Charlie for these next couple of years.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it either, but I also think Charlie Staines is probably more likely to get solid game time at another club. Like, I think Charlie Staines, if I was Charlie Staines' agent or him himself, I think that you just try to find your way to a top 8 club that doesn't have crazy amounts of outside back depth, because every team's got sort of different balance, right? Some teams win because they're pack, some teams win because they're spine, some teams have the star outside backs. But there's clubs out there that are decent performing clubs that challenge for the 8 that a guy like Charlie Staines would play 20 to 26 first grade games a year for. The West Tigers are a side that's balanced towards having better outside backs than they do in other positions. So that pushes Charlie Staines further down the playing roster than he might be I think if he went back to Penrith, he'd probably play a lot of first grade. You know what I mean? They're playing Tom Jenkins on the wing. I know Jenkins gave us a bath, but it's not like he's an out-and-out superstar. Charlie Staines would be higher in the depth chart there. Isaac Thompson, I really like what I've been seeing from Isaac Thompson over the last month. I think that he looks fitter. He is really good out of yardage. He's great under the high ball. He can finish. He scored 3 tries on the weekend, I think, and Charlie scored 2. I think Thompson would be Isaac Tuitupu. Sorry, I think he'd be getting up there in the top try scorer in New South Wales Cup. He seems to score a couple, one, 2, or 3 every game.
Yeah, man.
I'll come back to Rami. Just want to point out, Charlie Murray was an Australian schoolboys player too, and he was Australian schoolboys the same year as Jackson Rami. Charlie Murray also went to Ignatius Park High School in Townsville, and the other star of his high school team was one Thomas Duffy, who you said I think you wouldn't mind us signing, if I remember correctly.
Not at all. I would love Thomas Duffy. So
there's some connections there. Thought Eliel Zachem was strong. I didn't realise how old the bloke was, though. So I think, he's 28, so I'm not 100% sure whether there's much chance of him actually ending up pushing into first grade. I'm a little bit over us being the club that hands these, journeymen their first jerseys. We've done it a couple of times now. Can we stop now? I don't know. It makes me feel like our club's like the old folks' home. We lost that game because of goal kicking. 3 from 7, I think, Falls ended up. It's just not good enough. We had a chance to win the game there. I know it was tough conditions, but Jesus, mate, you got to make those. That's a match winner. We need you to make those. Best on ground, Talon Silva, once again, outstanding. Way too good for the grade. Superb for this grade. I'm starting to. My opinion towards Talon changes week to week. In the sense of how important I think it might be to keep him. It's tough, because I feel like he's the exact sort of player that if he went to another club, he'd probably become a kangaroo. But if he stays at the Tigers, you know what I mean? You look at what happened to Robbie Farah. If Robbie Farah had have left the Tigers at a young age and went to the Roosters, he would have been a freaking 30-game kangaroo and played 30 Origins and probably been on the shortlist for an immortal. That's how good Robbie Farah was, but he played for the West Tigers, so everyone shat on him and said he was shit, mate. Robbie Farah was one of the only hookers in the history of the game that was as skilled as him, and he was also an absolutely awesome defender. Anyway, this is Robbie Farah Fap Hour. Talon, I worry about because Galvin's done that, right, for that reason. That's exactly what Galvin's done. He's like, fuck. I don't think Galvin particularly had any spite towards the Tigers until it got spiteful. I think he just, for right or wrong reasons, recognised that if he was going to be a superstar of the game, it's much more likely that it happens at another club. When you look at the history of the best performing Tigers and where they end up in their rep careers, and I feel like Talon would be starting to think the same stuff. But Jackson Rami, I think. I'd love to see him play first grade. He's the right age, isn't he? He's somebody who I think that if we blooded, you might actually find that he
he's worth keeping. He's somebody who I feel like that, and we need more of that. Like, we're obviously blooding a lot of our like juniors that are like coming straight out of SG ball and into first grade, and they're stamping their claims and whatnot. But a lot of the best clubs also, extract value out of like guys that coming out of open age, and we don't seem to get too much of that. Like, we blood them, but they don't stick around. They come in, they come back out. Rami's somebody who I feel like you could genuinely, be a consistent 100-game forward if you really got behind him and gave him a chance to prosper. So I like his game. I like his size. I like his mobility. He's got high leg speed. He drives through contact when he runs the ball. He's got a bit of skill. Played 13 on the weekend. He can play in the back row, as we know. He's very good, adaptable forward for the modern game. The Tigers seem to not like monstrous size forwards. He's not a massive forward, but he's not small. He's big and mobile and rangy, and I like him. I think he's better than El Zachem. I don't know why El Zachem was on the extended bench ahead of him.
Yeah, I can't understand that either. Ely has some great touches in attack, but defensively I have my worries, and a few of those came to fruition in New South Wales Cup. Peter Ta'ateo, I thought, he had a great game in limited minutes, did some good things. And Royce Hunt got a good blowout, I thought, as well. Did some good things in his second stint. Good to see him return. So hopefully there's a little bit more. He's been named to play again in Cup. I wouldn't be surprised to see him return to first grade the week afterwards.
You know what I wouldn't be surprised to see next Friday night is the debut of Sunia Taruva, the centre.
Ooh.
Because I feel like that Adam Dewey might have finally pushed the point a little bit too much with how ineffective he was in attack, and I feel like Luke Lalali'i simultaneously has been stating a case for playing first grade, and I don't know whether they will just go Luke Lalali'i to left centre. So I would not be surprised if you see Taruva play centre and Luke Lalali'i play wing. I know that Taruva trained a lot in the off-season at centre.
Let's wait and see. It'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's not like he's kicking goals either, Adam, at the moment. So if that was his one thing that was holding him in the side, it's gone now. Let's talk flag. Really weird old game, this one. The Tigers went down pretty convincingly on the scoreline, 38-10, but I don't think it really told the story. Both of these forward packs were just smacking the shit out of each other. Elijah Mataale has come back, I think, from Canterbury to filter back into our system. There was some absolutely unreal shots. Go and have a look at NBWT's account on.
I saw it.
X.
It was ripper.
Some great shots there. Shaquille Tavita, who looks a really, really good find. He did some good things in the middle there as well. Jesley,
dense, eh?
Big fan of him as well.
He's dense.
The fact of the matter is this: we lost Max Lyles, who we are a big fan of, 4 minutes into the match. That really hurt us. And there was two 12-point turnarounds in regards to intercepts that we couldn't hold on to that the Dogs eventually scored off. As I mentioned, both forward packs were battering the shit out of each other. It was very evenly matched there, but it was just a case of the Dogs had the class and a little bit of luck in regards to those two 12-point turnarounds. And obviously losing Lyles hurt us as well. Similar to what I mentioned around, the Dogs Cup side, this flag side are extremely well drilled. Some of their line speed, contact and wrestle is up there with, some NRL sides, including our own. But nonetheless, I don't think the scoreline is a true reflection of how this game went. And, similar to this Cup side, I think this flag team is showing some improvements. But if they want to play in the postseason, they're going to have to try and start winning some games pretty soon.
Can I nominate the new enemy of the West Tigers, Cameron Ciraldo? I think Cameron Ciraldo is building himself quite a resume. Remember, we went after him hard, and he straight up was just as at the time an unhired assistant, just nah, thanks but no thanks.
There were multiple meetings. They worked overtime on that.
And then he goes to the Dogs, and he absolutely nails it instantly. And then he goes and poaches Lachlan Calvin. Can we nominate Cameron Ciraldo as the West Tigers arch nemesis now? I think he has to be our arch nemesis now.
You know what's the most ironic thing about all this? Cameron Ciraldo, while he was playing as a debutant for the Cronulla Sharks, was that much of a diehard of a West Tigers fan that he went and celebrated our 2005 premiership win with his father.
That's madness.
At Balmain Leagues Club. And
that's really interesting to think about, isn't it?
Get him across. He wasn't even... he played against us that year and he went to celebrate. Like, insane.
That's madness to think about, because, like, when we often talk about it when we're having, like, you know, robust conversations in Discord, you know, as Tigers fans. I think as Tigers fans, we're, like, you know, the harshest critics of the side in private especially. You know, some of the shit that we would say in private about this club would probably get us on watch lists. And I think everybody watching this YouTube stream probably agrees. But, like, that's probably, you know, not too dissimilar to the rhetoric that, you know, Tigers fans that are actually involved in the game have towards the club. You know what I mean? Like, if you feel like, if you've actually been paying attention to the West Tigers and you follow this club, you know that the club is just... it's just sick. It is a sick club. There's something wrong with it at an atomic level. And you'd have to be a fan to really, truly know that. And you'd have to be a fan to know that it's smart for your career to avoid it. Like, if you've been following along, and especially Cameron Ciraldo, you know, being the understudy to Ivan Cleary, you know, he would have had first-hand evidence from Ivan Cleary about the inner workings of the Tigers Holman Barnes group and how toxic the media are towards us and how hard it is to sign players as a Tigers coach. But at the same time, fuck that, because if you're a fan of the club, you need to be like, you know, if you're a true fan, you'd step up, wouldn't you? You'd step up and you'd take the reins and you'd be like, I'm going to change this for the better. But he put himself ahead of that, didn't he? He bitched out and he went and took the easy job. You're a bitch, Cameron Ciraldo. You're a bitch, Cameron Ciraldo. You're a bitch, Cameron Ciraldo, and I hate you. And I can't wait until we fucking get our comeuppance against you. And it will happen. Because you guys are writing the narrative. You guys are writing all of the narrative. All the haters, all of the haters, you're writing the narratives for us. You're putting your names up there. You guys are nominating yourselves to be the ones who fall the furthest when we rise. You are. Ivan Cleary, Cameron Ciraldo, Lachlan Galvin, Phil Gould. We're coming for you, bitch. Fuck you.
You're a bitch, Cameron Ciraldo. God, there's been some good rants today. I don't know if we have any questions. Is it high time we wrap up?
Oh, there's a couple. Let's do them. Fuck it. I don't know if I'm at the office at 6:30 at night, and I hate going home at this time of night because it's the shittiest thing. I'll delay and delay and delay and delay. All right, we've got. Oh shit! Could Skeleton play centre?
I mean, he could. Yeah.
Great. Good chat. All right. Next question.
Will Taylor make it?
This is about May. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Will he make it as an NRL quality centre? Look, Penrith's a better system than us, and they were ready to go all chips in on him. They offered he signed a $1.2 million contract over 3 years. He was going to be playing left centre there. If he didn't have these charges laid on him, then he would still be there. So they're good enough judges for me. Whether or not this time out of the game has stunted his development, I guess we'll see. For me, it's simply around defensive subtlety. He's a very, very skillful player with ball in hand. It's just whether or not he can make the right reads and do the right things to succeed at NRL level as an outside centre.
No, I had weird. My mind went to: is Talon May a potentially better left centre than Mahe Fonua?
Oh, yes.
No, Mahe Fonua was a pretty good left centre.
He had his moments, yeah. He also cost us a finals berth with his brain explosion down in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, but he was pretty good, like, for the most part.
I was like, there's been some pretty dudded players that have made NRL careers. I think Talon May, will be just fine. Like, I'm not super worried about him as a player. I think he's talented, obviously, and I think he I've watched enough highlights of him I've seen some of when he played internationals. Wasn't he a handful in those international games or in that Maori versus Indigenous game? He was a beast. Like, he's a good player, but I just hope that he keeps his head together. I hope it's just a matter of him being a kid and becoming a man. And you know what? His older brother Terrell is the right kind of weird. And what I mean by that is as an older brother, you want kind of like a cosmic dude to be Talon May's older brother, because the only way that Talon May comes out of this stuff is if he has some sort of existential transformation. Yeah. Anyway, I know I'm getting quantum now. Next question. Kobe Hetherington off contract next year. Is he or isn't he?
He is off contract next year.
Yeah, well, welcome to the West Tigers, Kobe Hetherington.
So there's a fair chance.
Here's a good question for Bryce. It was directed at our friend who was having a crack at us in the comments, but I think it's a good question. Who was better who had a better game, Nathan Cleary or Jerome Luai? Who won the 1v1?
I thought that Luai had a bigger impact on his side. Cleary was the steady hand as he always is, but I think that Jerome's impact on his team was very, very obvious. I
think that
in the points, even though I'm extremely biased.
I think it's obvious. I think Penrith fans have struggled to argue with it, but I also think that the reason Nathan Cleary was ineffective is because of Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai took it upon himself to literally tackle Nathan Cleary out of the game. Every time Nathan Cleary looked like he was going to put on a play, before he had a chance to do it, Jerome Luai was there. He knows exactly what Nathan Cleary is up to every time.
True.
It was good. It was beautiful. And Penrith didn't have an answer for Jerome, which is ironic, right? And I guess that's the benefit of Nathan Cleary is a predictable player who plays to the structure. Jerome Luai is an enigmatic player. So you can never tell what Jerome Luai is going to do. But good promising signs. It's just hopefully he can do that to other clubs and not just the club that he knows the best.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to go through here and see if there's any other questions. There was one about Talon. This one here is a good one. Let me answer it. What would be so wrong about running Talon to Silver 10 minutes before half-time through to 10 to 15 minutes into the half? Nothing in particular is the answer to that question. He's probably going to come back into the NRL side in the next couple of rounds, maybe even the next match. I don't believe that he's been demoted for any particular reason aside from to get minutes into him, and he's got some minutes into him and he's performed super well. He probably won't come back in straight after the bye, though, because he'll probably come back in when they think Appy needs to, have his minutes managed again, and Appy's going to have a whole week off. So, yeah, but you'll definitely see him again, for sure. He's done not much wrong. And I think, but the New South Wales Cup side's form has completely changed since he got dropped to New South Wales Cup. 2 wins, 1 draw in the 3 games Talon's played. So that's the difference he makes on that side. I don't know, where would he rather be playing right now? Probably first grade, but at the same time, winning's pretty fun. Reedie?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think I made the mention before that I think it's best for his long-term development to be playing reserve grade, and they needed to get minutes into him, but we'll see.
Oh, hang on, that's wrong. Oh, yeah, that's a good question anyway. We're heavy with backs. How and who can we get as a forward?
I think you just got to have a look at the sides that have shit loads of players loaded up. We got one out of Canberra with Peter Tartel. I don't know what his contract status is, whether or not he's got a full-time deal next year or whatever, but nonetheless, they're doing the right things. There's a lot of back rowers at the New Zealand Warriors. I
was about to say Warriors, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be making inquiries there.
And the Storm.
Yeah, and the Broncos. You've just got to look around. In terms of who... I could probably provide you with some names. We spoke about Kobe before.
What about Lazarus Valepu?
Not a big fan of Lazarus, but yeah, he's a guy that would. He's an improvement on a lot of what we've got on the depth chart. Jaden Hunt and Fletcher Baker are guys that you'd look at. another guy at Melbourne, Atabalu Lazati, is another one to look at. There's a fella at the Warriors by the name of Kalis Fatia Lorfa, big fan of him, and he's stuck behind Laban, Vaimunga, Halasima, Niokore. There are thousands of back rowers of the Warriors. I'll be looking there.
They got to have middles too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom Arley's one that I was an advocate for a little while back. The Bulldogs, after having no fucking middle forwards at the beginning of last year, have thousands.
Good ones too.
Yeah, they do. So they're a team that I would be looking into as well. Sam Hughes, I think, is an out and out first grader. They've just so it's probably not going to be him. But yeah, even a guy like Taniela Otakolo, who hasn't played great, but he's another guy that you could certainly look at. And
who I like, who I low key wouldn't mind us having a round 2 for is Kitiona Kartonga. I think Parramatta have been giving him development that he desperately needed.
He's playing really, really well.
He also belted Lachlan Galvin, so we should give him a 10-year deal for that.
He is finally realising his enormous potential.
He's off contract too, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll be tied down. But yeah, I would be looking there. He's a great player. But whether or not there's any bad blood with Banj, because he did leave midway through the 23 pre-season, I'm not too sure. But nonetheless,
it's a thing, isn't it? Like a lot of players leave clubs and come back. But it doesn't seem to happen. Once players leave Tigers, they're gone ski, right? It's very rare that they come back. I can think of once or twice I remember maybe seeing it happen, but doesn't seem to happen much. It seems like there's always a lot of bad blood that leave. I mean, you obviously like some Rami and Adam Dewey and stuff like that where they leave as juniors and come back. But yeah, once they leave after they debut, it doesn't seem to end up there. This is another good question. Oh, by the way, I like what you were saying. I think that the trick to finding good value forwards is you target the clubs that get forced into assigning their developmental players on extras. So when you see the emergence of a player like a Halasima, for instance, the Warriors are now going to have to change their plan, because they're going to have to pay $600K or $700K to keep like a Halasima when he's next off contract, right? So something's got to give. And usually they have starters that have been supplanted. So that's why, you look at clubs like that. You look at a club like the Bulldogs that have got some really good young forwards that they will move on to or are in the process of moving on to. I think that's sort of just explaining your mentality towards how you actually identify opportunity.
Great.
There's the next question. Do we start Sione Finey from now on?
No.
You don't start him?
No, I like him coming on and making an impact, and I think that he's really important in that role for us. I think that Terrell and when fully fit, Terrell and Fanua are a wonderful front row pairing, and Alex Twal serves as the anchor. I really, really like that. And then, Sione to come on with, Jack Bird and, whether it's Royce Hunt or whoever. Yeah, I think that works really well.
Now, CB says, sorry, I missed the orgy. Imagine Jolsey, AD's liability. He needs to be placed. If not Taruva, then who? Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be the Taruva or Luke Lalali at this point, unless Talon May just gets a bloody absolute... I'll tell you who's not going to supplant Adam Dewey. It's Brent Naden or Solomon Fatape.
Yep, you're right there. I think it'll be the guy we sign on a train and trial deal. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Do you think, though, that... Talon will take a little bit of time to get, maybe not too long. You'd think it'd be at least 3 weeks, right, of training before they feel like he's up to speed with the. I was going to say up to speed with the playbook and the structure, and then I had Hobbo's voice in my head, just be like, "What fucking structure?" Yeah, I mean, in the interim, if you're waiting on Talon May, you probably do go, as Josie says, Luke Lalali has a chance. I personally would play. I would prefer that they move Skelton or Taruva to centre and leave Luke on the wing. Just at this point in time, I feel like you'd expose him a lot if you played him in centre in first grade, personally.
Yeah, I think.
But at the same time, I understand it's like how good's Taruva been on that right? They got the combo with Toa. Do you really fuck with that? Probably not. It's probably a bad idea.
Yeah,
Skelton. I forgot about Skelton, I shouldn't have, because
the difference between like Staines was going good at left wing. I was like, oh, look at him, look at little Stainesy go, the little fucking engine that could. And Skeleton comes back in and just like crushes fucking souls. It's just different. So yeah, no, Skelly can stay there. CB says, "What's more likely, Haas signing with West Tigers or the heat death of the universe?"
Well, depends whether or not you subscribe to the old theory of climate change. I'd say.
What's the would Payne Haas be the West Tigers' best ever signing? Would be, hey.
Oh yeah.
Better than Luai?
It'd be close, but I'd say
it's Haas.
Haas is the best front rower in the comp by.
I think Haas is the best player in the NRL.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be the best signing ever because no club's ever signed the best player in the NRL before.
Right.
Well, our club hasn't. I mean, Benji Marshall Golden Boot, but he was already here, right? Oh, here we go. Let's bring on this old chestnut.
Oh, we've already been there, but you can double down.
Was it a hip drop? We win without the impact of blatantly wrong, incorrect, and out of step with rule interpretations call on Sorensen not fouling Buller. I believe it was a very dangerous, reckless tackle in a try-scoring situation. I believe that the NRL, when they cracked down on hip drops, had exactly that type of tackle in mind. I believe that it was a hip drop by the NRL's interpretations. I understand that the primary objection that people level at it is that he did not contact the back of the legs, which I believe that he did. I believe that even if he didn't, it wouldn't matter. Therefore, I believe that everybody who doesn't think it's a hip drop is a complete fuckwit.
Well said. I got nothing else to say.
CB's in fine form. Do you think that the club should change the run-on song from Eye of the Tiger to Yakety Sorry.
He hasn't been to a game recently because it's now Welcome to the Jungle. But I for one would be an advocate, given we already are a banter club. So why not double down?
You know what I think we should change the West Tigers music to?
Go on.